All right, we're going to try something new today. I'm going to react to this really good little short TV spot from Nitere News about nenkin. So it's about the pension system and how people currently getting pensions are dealing with it, and some challenges and some opportunities. I thought it was a really good TV program, so I wanted to share it with you and kind of give you my thoughts going through it. And of course, this isn't actually a reaction because I've already watched it. So it's more like comments, I guess. So let's check it out. It is in Japanese. I'll be pausing every so often just to explain what's going on, give you my thoughts. But let's check it out.
物価高の今、年金だけで暮らす人の現実は
5万と710円27円。
次の年金支給日まで1ヶ月近く残す中、全財産は5万円ほど。
オーバーな言い方すると地獄ですよね。
働く世代でも老後への不安を感じる人は。
All right, so that intro was just, this guy is on nenkin, he's got very little money, and he's got a month until his next pension payment. And then they're also talking about how people who are working are kind of worried about the future as well.
多く
年金が全然ないみたいな聞いてるので怖いなって思って、
その不安から今現役世代が注目しているのが
NISA は今もうすでにやってて、
現役世代も不安、年金の現実。
All right, I'm really pleased that they're talking about NISA and they're showing people who are using NISA and they're kind of demystifying the NISA account because it really is one of the best ways to save and invest for the future.
都内のスーパー。
開店前ですが、年配の方が並んでます。
野菜など食品の安さが売りで、物価高の今、少しでも節約したい高齢者が多く訪れていました。
どこで食い詰めるかって食品ですからね。
So these are older people who are trying to reduce their food costs by going to this supermarket which has cheap food. And they line up outside before it starts.
さらに夕方を過ぎるとこのタイムサービスを目指してくる年金暮らしの人も多く、
And this is super popular in Japan, so all the supermarkets and even some convenience stores now, once things get close to expiry time, fresh stuff kind of expires that day, you get these discount stickers put on and the discounts can be substantial. So you got people who are showing up to the shop when the discounts start, and often they'll be hanging around beforehand and like grabbing stuff and waiting for the stickers kind of thing. So yeah, it's kind of sad in a way as well.
こちらの女性は割引のシールが貼られた直後に弁当をカゴの中へ。
今日は夕飯ね、これね。
こちらの女性は惣菜を購入。
助かりますよ。やっぱり安い方が嬉しいですよ。
老後の支え、2ヶ月に一度支給される年金。
Now, this is one thing that people might not know, which is that the nenkin pension is paid every 2 months. So you have to be careful with, your budget and making sure that you make your nenkin stretch to last for those 2 months.
支給日まで1ヶ月近くある中、どれくらい残っているのか聞いてみると。
Okay, so this program, they're actually halfway through the 2 months. So there's a month until the next payment, and they're asking these people, how they're doing with their nenkin.
年金2ヶ月16万5万ぐらいしか残ってないんじゃない。2万分ぐらいは残ってんじゃないかな。ふりかけかけてご飯食べてたり。
Okay, so this lady has 20,000 yen left until her next nenkin payment comes in, and she's talking about eating, rice with furikake kind of flavoring on it.
生活ですよ。
生活が厳しいと話すのは収入が年金だけの人たち。
So this is the problem. People who only have nenkin, so they're relying entirely on their state pension, which is not particularly generous. So this is just kind of highlighting the need for people to have savings, investments, other sources of income, and so on.
年金しか収入ないから何もできない。
75歳の田中さんもその一人。
やっぱり生活が苦しいからね。 家賃の安いとこ引っ越せたの。
年金だけではギリギリの生活で、先月末、前のアパートより家賃が3万円ほど安い
So Mr. Tanaka here has moved from his old place, his original home, which was 80,000 yen a month in rent, to a new place that's only 50,000 yen a month in rent. But can you imagine doing that when you're 75, like moving and trying to find a cheaper place to live? Not an attractive scenario.
団地に引っ越したといいます。妻と合わせ、一月の年金は26万
And these people are doing all right. Like between them, they have a pension of 260,000 yen a month. And that is really good. And most people working now are not going to see pensions like that in the future.
円ほどですが、田中さんには毎月大きな出費が。
入院したり退院したりの繰り返しだから。
去年、持病の悪化などで入退院を繰り返し、貯蓄からおよそ30万円を支払ったという田中さん。
Okay, so he's ill. He's got some kind of illness, and this is requiring him to be hospitalized repeatedly, and it's using up his money. Even with the really low healthcare costs here in Japan, you know, obviously, if you haven't got that kind of income or savings, and then you've got these ongoing healthcare costs, it's going to make a really bad difference to how you're doing.
今も4つの病院へ通っています。持病が原因で働くことも難しく、医療費は増えるばかり。
So he can't work. But I mean, he's 75, his wife's 77. Like, you wouldn't expect them to be working, but yeah, really tough situation.
蓄えを切り崩してきたっていう、これからもそうなんだろうなっていう。
So he's spending down his savings, and that's why he's moved to this cheaper home. And actually, this is a good reflection of how people are going to approach retirement, because people are not stupid. They can see their money going down. They look at how they might be able to cut costs and adjust their lifestyle in the future. A lot of people are going to have to make these kind of changes, but it's much better to do it now so that you have a chance to save and invest and actually build up some capital before you get to this kind of situation.
貯蓄で何とかやりくりする人もいれば、蓄えがなく年金のみで生活する人も。渡辺さん74歳。
交際費とか全然回らないです。
So Mr. Watanabe only has his nenkin, and he's saying he hasn't got any money to go out or do anything or spend time with people.
地獄ですよね。
It's hell. And you can imagine that, you know, you're still alive, you're still fairly active, but you haven't got any money and you really can't do anything, basically.
一月の年金はおよそ6
So he's getting about 60,000 yen a month in nenkin. And this is what you'd be getting if you paid kokumin nenkin. And if you paid the full amount of kokumin nenkin, which is 480 months, you'd only get 65,000 yen a month under the current system, which is clearly not enough to live on.
万円。300万円ほどあった貯蓄は4年前に
So he had savings. He had 3 million yen's worth of savings, but he used it up like a couple of years ago, you know, presumably since retiring and just spending it down on probably little things like food and stuff like that.
ゼロになったと言います。
かなりきついです。
So he's got no savings now. He's got his monthly pension of about 60,000 yen and nothing else.
ですよね。
5年前から家賃4200円の都営住宅に
So he's moved into city-run accommodations. This is kind of public housing. And public housing sets the rent based on your income a lot of the time. So if you have very low income, like this gentleman, his rent is 4,200 yen a month, which is good. Well, it's unbelievable, really. But even so, you know, leaving him, 56,000 yen a month to live on? That's kind of rough.
一人で暮らしています。食費を切り詰めるため余計なものは買わず、冷蔵庫の中はほとんど物。
So they said yoke na mono o kawazu. So he's not buying anything kind of fancy or surplus to requirements, but there's a big can of beer in there. And that's the first thing my wife noticed. I showed her this video earlier and she was like, there's a can of beer in there. I'm like, yeah, well, let him have his little, you know, it's like me having my coffee. Like, don't take my coffee away. You know, maybe he wants his can of beer or whatever.
がありません。 昼は毎日レトルトカレー。
Appetizing, is it?
今日はタイのグリーンカレーです。
これで1食100円ほど。
So he's eating once a day, spending about 100 yen on it, on this kind of like, packaged curry thing.
期待してたよりは、美味しくないです。
He says it's not as delicious as he was hoping it was going to be.
我慢を強いられる年
The other thing my wife said is that he should be making the curry. It would probably be cheaper if he did that. If you batch cooked it from scratch, it'd be healthier, it'd be tastier, it'd be cheaper. But often these guys haven't got those cooking skills. They've grown up and they haven't had to cook before, so it's going to default to kind of packaged food.
金生活。通帳を見せてもらうと、
現在は20円しかない。
Okay, so he's got 20 yen in his bank account.
年金が振り込まれた日にほぼ全額下ろしていて、今の全財産は
5万と
710円27円。
Okay, so he's halfway through his nenkin 2-month period and he's got about half of it left. So this is fairly good. He's fairly disciplined with this thing. My wife commented on, how tidy his flat, his apartment looked. So he's obviously got it together, but he's not got a lot to work with, has he, with this 60,000 yen a month income.
残り1ヶ月でおよそ5万円。ここから家賃を支払い、さらに
電気、水道、光熱費、食費と払う。
So that's tough. So utilities, especially at the moment when electricity's up, water's up, everything's up. And so he's got to pay his rent, he's got to pay his electricity, he's got to pay his water, he's got to pay heating and so on. And he's also got to buy food. So, yeah, nothing left.
ちょっとね、やっぱりマイナスですよね。息子とか娘が近所にそれぞれ住んでるので、
So his daughters and his son live nearby, apparently. And they help him out with money and food sometimes. So you got to wonder what the backstory is there.
金なり食料なりを応援してもらって生活してます。子供たちも孫も連れて旅行に行きたいですよね。かといって
So he wants to take his kids and his grandkids on trips, but obviously that's not possible. So I can understand, like that's a really big deal for me, like spending time with the family and not being able to do so because you didn't have money is it's kind of sad. Although you'd think, you don't have to spend money to spend time with your family. Like you could take the kids to the park and do that kind of thing. But yeah, it's kind of I'm wondering what his relationships are like.
何かで臨時収入があるなんてことも考えられないし。
年金生
So he said he can't imagine having extra income. He can't imagine work. I wonder why, because he seems fairly active. You'd think he'd be able to do some kind of part-time work or something that would get him some more money.
生活の現実。働く世代からは
年金が全然ないみたいな聞いてるので怖いなって思って頑張って貯金はしようかなとは思う。
Okay, so she's heard there's no nenkin coming, so she's saving for the future. She's in her 20s. That's amazing. Like if she's just saving, that's kind of a waste. But if she was investing, this would be amazing. Like give her 3, 4, 5 decades of compounding. She's going to have a very nice little nest egg if she was investing there.
年金の受け取りが迫りつつある世代も。
40代ぐらいから
So these are people who are getting closer to retirement. She's in her 50s. She said she started saving when she was in her 40s.
徐々に考え出してて貯金とか。
さらに老後の不安からなのか、利用者が増加しているのが
So I'm really pleased that the media is pushing NISA and stuff. So here they're showing the number of accounts that have been made in NISA. So 2020, there are about 15 million accounts, rising to 18 million in 2022. Now this is still a tiny amount given the population. So the population's 120 odd million, probably around 100 million people probably are able to open a NISA account. So anyone living in Japan who's over 18 can open a NISA account. But the fact that there's only 18 million accounts open is crazy. It's absolutely unbelievable that more people are not using NISA.
NISA。 積み立て型など、投資によって得た利益に税金がかからない制度で、
NISA の口座の開設とかをこの間したので、
So she just opened a NISA account and she's in her 50s. So that's great. But yeah, we want these guys to be doing it. This very confident looking young man who's in his 20s and he's
ニーサは今もうすでにやってて33,333円かなで、毎
he's
日
maxing it out. So he's gonna be absolutely fine. When he's 50, when he's 60, he's gonna have a nice chunk of money, assuming he's investing it in something sensible and assuming that he leaves it there to grow for a few decades.
貯めてますね。
こちらの男性はおよそ2年間で52万円を投資に回し、現在、
That's interesting because presumably he's using Tsumitate NISA, which is, 33,000 yen a month. He's saying he's putting in the full amount. And yet he's only got 570,000 yen after a couple of years, which seems strange because that's less than he should have been able to put in, unless we're talking a couple of years and that he started most of the way through the first year or something.
5万5千円ほどの利益が。政府は新しい NISA の制度を作り、利用者の倍増を目指しています。
Okay, so we've got they got the new NISA account, and they were saying that the government's hoping to double the number of accounts from 18 million at the moment, I guess, to 36 million accounts. That would be a start, I guess. I'm definitely doing my best to try and get as many people starting up NISA as possible.
今、年金だけで暮らす人の現実は。
5万と
700
Oh shit, we lost the sorry about that. Let's get this back to the right place. So don't know how that happened there. Okay, so we're back at
こちらの男性はおよそ2年間で52万円を投資に回し、現在5万5千円ほどの利益が。
Okay, so he's made 50 he's made about 10% in 2 years, which it seems reasonable, based on what he's put in. Yeah.
政府は新しい NISA の制度を作り、利用者の倍増を目指しています。
Oh, it was finished. That's why the video messed up. Right. Okay. Cool. I just started the video again. So yeah, I thought this was a really nice little clip. I thought it was great. I thought it was kind of sympathetic to the people who are living on low nenkin, and it's also kind of a cautionary tale for everyone else. It's like, look, this is what's waiting if you don't sort things out, and that's basically what RetireJapan is as well. It's basically, it is very much in your best interest to sort your finances out. Here's some information to help you. Let's get on it. Let's sort this out now so that you don't end up, living by yourself with 20 yen in your bank account in the future. Let me know if there's any other videos that you think would be interesting to react to or comment on. Feel free to send me links and stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.